You've got to kiss an angel good morning.
Charley Pride's name echoed on the baseball field in the corners of country music. He was a man that fought boundaries and chased his dream with all his might. For Charley Pride, giving up wasn't an option. Not only did he excel, but went head-to-head with the great Elvis Presley. However, the dark-skinned country singer had his share of worries and problems in life, and his final message before his death has us all in a state of shock. What did he reveal? Let's find out. Daring to dream. Charley Frank Pride was the fourth of 11 children born to sharecroppers, Tessie and Fowler MacArthur Pride, in Sledge, Mississippi, on the 18th of March, 1938. Right from the moment he was born, it became obvious that his path would be different from that of his parents. His name was originally supposed to be Charles, as that was what his father had named him. However, the midwife wrote Charley on his birth certificate instead, and his family decided to just roll with it. Growing up in Sledge, Charley had a dream of doing something else with his life besides picking cotton. He wanted to travel and go places. He wanted to see the world and be as free as a bird. The dream that kept him up at night, however, was not of music, but of playing pro league baseball. From a very young age, Charley has been drawn to the game and felt his heart flutter with excitement every single time he went to the fields to watch a game. Aside from baseball, Charley had another love that would eventually become the one that would give him the freedom he was hoping for. That love was music. Slowly and carefully, music found a way into his soul. He was drawn to the sound of strings and the melody of voices. His family had a Philco radio, where he learned country music. He listened with rapt attention to the choruses that played on the radio every evening after school, dreaming of baseball and falling in love with country music. He picked cotton alongside his parents as a young boy, not to save money for baseball gloves or shoes, but to buy a Silverstone guitar from Sears and Roebuck. At the age of 14, he bought his first guitar with his savings and taught himself how to play. At night, he delighted his family with his melodious voice as he sang and played covers of songs he heard on the radio. At this age, however, baseball had a stronger grip on his heart than music. Unable to ignore its call any longer, Pride decided to leave school and follow his dreams. His parents, seeing how determined he was, decided to let him have his way and follow his heart. He ended his schooling at the 11th grade when his parents gave their blessing for him to leave home. Pride left home to play baseball in 1952. At the age of 16, he began his baseball career as a pitcher for the Memphis Red Sox of the Negro American League. In 1953, he signed a contract with the Boise Yankees, the Class C farm team of the New York Yankees. It seemed as though he was on the right track to becoming the pro baseball player he had always dreamed about. However, the unexpected happened. During that season, he had an accident while playing that affected his shoulder. The injury caused him to lose the mustard on his fastball, and he was sidelined for the rest of the season. After evaluating the extent of his injury, they decided there was still some hope for him yet and sent him to the Yankees Class D team in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. After some time, the team directors observed that Charley was no longer as fit as he had been when they had signed him, and they decided it was time for him to go. Later that season, while in the Negro Leagues with the Louisville Clippers, Pride and another player, Jesse Mitchell, were traded to the Birmingham Black Barons for a team bus. It hurt. It hurt so bad. To be replaced by a used bus was one of the most painful experiences of Charley's life. It made him feel like he had no worth anymore. His chances of fulfilling his dream of playing in a pro baseball league looked grim. For a while, he was depressed. Yet, he was determined to succeed in baseball. He put more effort into recovering from the accident and refused to let people who did not know him decide his fate. For 3 years, he trained and recuperated, then went back to join the Memphis Red Sox in 1956. This time, he was a different pitcher. He went on to win 14 games as a pitcher and earned himself a position on the Negro American League All-Star team. It seemed everything was back on track, and he was close to seeing his dreams come true. Then he sustained another injury. He cracked a bone in his elbow and had to be sidelined. But Charley did not let this stop him the second time. He became a knuckleball pitcher and managed to recover quickly enough to rejoin the team during the latter half of the season. As an all-star player, Charley played against a group of major league players, Willie Mays and Hank Aaron included. At the end of the season, Charley and his team had gone head-to-head with the Major League All-Stars, playing exhibition games that the Major League All-Stars always won. Charley changed the narrative. The Major League All-Stars were known to be ruthless in their game and had been the top dogs of baseball in the South. Compared to them, Charley's Negro All-Star team was no match. However, one October night in Victoria, Texas, Charley sealed a rare victory for the Negro League All-Stars by closing out a game with 4 innings of shutout ball, making him the MVP of the game. As the crowd cheered his name, it seemed he was finally going to achieve all that he had dreamed about. Then Uncle Sam came calling. That same year, he was drafted into the military and had to say goodbye to his beloved team, the Memphis Red Sox. He had no experience with the Army and had to undergo basic training. After this, he was stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado. There, he found out that Fort Carson had a baseball team, and his eyes lit up with joy. An avenue to keep doing what he loved was all he wanted. He became quartermaster and joined the fort's baseball team. His presence on the team was later recognized when he helped them win the All-Army Sports Championship. Even when he was miles away from home and his baseball team, he refused to let his hope of playing baseball go away. He didn't feel like it was time to back down. Instead, he found a place to keep playing and improve his skills. Rather than despair at the challenges and setbacks that he was experiencing, he chose to work hard and keep dreaming behind the scenes. He wasn't done yet. There was still so much he wanted to do in the world of baseball. The challenges didn't deter him. Instead, they motivated him to keep pushing forward. It was also during his time there that he met his wife, Rosine. He met her before being enlisted at a baseball game in Memphis, Tennessee. The connection between the two of them had been instant and so strong, it almost felt as if they had known each other their whole lives. When he had gone into the Army, the thoughts of her were imprinted in his mind. When he returned from Army basic training on Christmas leave and they met again, he decided to get married to her. Life was too short to think too much about this thing. Besides, love did not have a time constraint. Whether the attraction occurred in an instant or developed gradually over time, what mattered most was that it was mutual. They got married in 1956 and had 2 sons, Craig and Dion, and a daughter, Angela. The 16-year-old boy who had left home with nothing but dreams and very little to his name was finally growing into a man who had fallen in love and now had a family of his own. He wasn't alone out there anymore. The thought made him sober. In the Army, there was no telling how or when someone would be gone forever. When he had been alone, he hadn't cared whether he lived or whether he didn't. But now, with a wife and kids, he realized that if he didn't get back alive, he would be leaving his wife all alone and his children without a father. The thought was sobering. He had more to lose, and people depending on him to succeed. He couldn't afford to be careless with his life and live recklessly. He had to focus and bring out the best in himself so he could be someone his children were proud of to call father. Losing or giving up was not an option. He wasn't afraid of hard work. He didn't shirk responsibilities. He faced them head on. While he had no plans to give up on his dreams, he didn't want it to come at the cost of other things and people important to him. He wanted to win it all, no matter the cost. When discharged in 1958, he went back to his old team, the Memphis Red Sox. His comeback was not as eventful as he had hoped. It was hindered by old injuries acting up, leaving him feeling a little disappointed. His pitch wasn't as good as it used to be, and this made him feel a little down. He didn't lose hope, however. If he couldn't pitch, then he would bat. Pride played 3 games for the Missoula Timberjacks of the Pioneer League in 1960, but his injured shoulder made the team directors and coaches wary. So they laid him off. Charley didn't quit trying, though. He has come too far and sacrificed so much to leave it all behind. When he got laid off by the Timberjacks, he decided to move in search of greener pastures. In 1960, he moved to Helena, Montana, where he worked construction. His chances of being recruited to play in the major league like he had always dreamed were getting slimmer. He even began to have doubts. No matter how passionate he was about his dreams, it didn't change the fact that his injured shoulder was not as reliable as it used to be. His passion and desire weren't getting him any closer to fulfilling his dreams. Yet he decided to try one last time. He was recruited to pitch for the local semi-pro baseball team, the East Helena Smelterites, and the team manager helped him get a job at the local Asarco Lead Smelter. The Lead Smelter kept 18 jobs open specifically for baseball players and arranged their shifts so they could play as a team. As long as it was baseball, you could count Charley in. Although his dream was to play in the big leagues, he played because of his love for the game. No matter the position he was to play, a pitcher or a batter, it didn't matter to him. He just wanted to continue doing the thing he loved with others who also shared his passion for the game. In 1961, he got a chance to try out for the Los Angeles Angels during spring training, but found himself heading back home to Helena, Montana after just 2 weeks in camp. He was also called to try out with the New York Mets the next year, but didn't make the shortlist either. At this point, he decided it was time to stop dreaming about big leagues and be more practical. He loved baseball, and as long as he got to play it, it would be enough. Besides, he had East Helena smelterites, and for now, that should satisfy his craving for the pitch. But as the saying goes, when life closes a door, God opens a window. That philosophy was the basis of Charley's rise to fame in the music industry. Charley's rise to fame. It was the beginning of a new game, and the person designated to sing the national anthem was nowhere to be seen. Not wanting to delay the game any further, they asked if anyone could sing. Charley, not thinking much of it, raised his hand and said he would do it. His teammates cheered as he made his way onto the field. They heard him sing during work, so they knew he was a really good singer. His songs were one of the enjoyable aspects of his work. Smelting was a dangerous job, and the smelter was no place to be. There was so much that could go wrong. At one point, he had an accident at work that resulted in him breaking his ankle. Work was risky, but he couldn't quit. He needed to work to pay the bills, and his job was the reason he could play with the East Helena smelterites. Although he had given up on his dreams of playing pro, he was still attached to the game. He had been pursuing this for so long, it would take him time to get over it. Baseball had been his life for so long, it would take a very long time to quit. After his performance at the pitch, word spread around town that one of the smelters was a singer. He began to receive invitations to sing at many clubs, bars, and events. It wasn't something he had envisioned in a million years. He had been so focused on baseball that he never considered a career path anywhere else. The more he continued his performances, the more he began to reconnect with his lost love, country music. His mind went back to his nights sitting by the radio, as his father tuned it so he could listen to music from the grand old Pry. He continued singing around Helena, trying to build a name for himself while working as a smelter and playing baseball. He seems to be getting his footing in life again. As soon as he realized that his dreams of playing pro baseball were gone, he felt adrift from the rest of the world. Music served as the lifeline that pulled him back to shore, helping him rebuild his confidence. Soon, he became like a local celebrity around the area, singing at any event he was invited to. His voice was one they would never forget. He lived in Helena until 1967, then bought his first house. His children, Dion and Angela, were also born there, making the town more memorable for him. Not only had he found his new calling, but the two of them were also able to give him the closure he needed with baseball and help him transition into a new phase of life. He began playing baseball less and less, focusing more on his career as a musician. His time at Helena, too, came to an end, and the Pride family had to be on the move again. They moved to Great Falls, Montana in 1967 so they could be closer to the airport. Pride's music career was taking off, and he needed to be away from home more often. But that wasn't the only challenge they faced. In Montana, they had to endure a bit of racism. Being black wasn't common there, and some people had a hard time relating to black people. Pride's wife gave instances in an interview of times when they were refused service in a restaurant simply because their color was not accepted in that establishment. Another incident occurred when they were searching for a house and encountered a realtor who refused to show them a home, feeling they were not the right people to live there because they were people of color. Charley didn't let this affect him though, and with time, the people of Montana began to thaw out. Meanwhile, Charley was on the move, singing across different towns. In a move to advance his singing career, he recorded a professional demo at Sun Studios, but the demo didn't do very well, so he stuck with live performances. This led him to the meeting that changed his life. His deep, resonant tone and rekindled love for music soon led him to Nashville. It was there that he met with Jack Johnson, who heard his voice and decided that he would be the next big thing. Johnson sent him home with a promise of a management contract. Charley returned to Montana, where he continued playing at local bars, clubs, and events. Sometimes he performed as a solo artist and other times as a member of a group. One of these groups, the Nighthawks, was one of the most significant groups. Founded by a young guitarist named Jimmy Owen, the group featured Charley on guitar and vocals, Jimmy's father, George, on steel guitar, and Monty Cowles, a 14-year-old girl, on the drums. Together, they performed multiple gigs and showcased the true spirit of country music to everyone. Meanwhile, back in Nashville, Johnson was trying to sell Charley's demo to record labels, but he was having more trouble than he thought. They loved his voice, but they were skeptical about his color. A year later, John Somos called Pride over to Nashville to record 2 songs with cowboy Jack Clements. Once the 2 demos were successfully recorded, he took them to RCA executive Chet Atkins. Chet heard him sing in the first demo and decided that Charley's skin color did not matter. In 1966, Charley Pride was signed to the RCA record label. Then the next hurdle came. Although Atkins was okay with Charley being black, they were not so sure about him being accepted by the general public. They worried that he might be exposed to racial controversies that might even lead to physical harm to Charley or his family. So, they released his first singles without mentioning his race or using publicity photos. His first single, The Snakes Crawl at Night, was not as successful as they had hoped, but they kept trying. His second single, Before I Met You, also missed the mark that they were aiming for. His third single, however, was where he hit the jackpot. Just Between You and Me took him to the country charts, where his song reached number 9 on the 25th of February, 1967. That was the beginning of his success in the world of country music. Just Between You and Me was so successful that Charley got nominated for a Grammy Award for the song the next year. As he gathered more fans all across the country, they decided it was time to show the world what he looked like. It was a risky venture, and everything could fall apart in a minute. But Charley came to understand that this mess was bigger than him. Through music, he would be fighting for the rights of black people all across the country, not with fists, but with heart and music. In the late summer of 1966, he was booked for his first large show in Detroit's Olympia Stadium. 10,000 country fans who came to the show did not know Charley was black. They got the shock of their lives when Charley Pride was introduced and a black man walked up on stage. When he walked onto the stage, the audience's applause gradually died away to silence. "I knew I'd have to get it over with sooner or later," Pride later remembered. "I told the audience, friends, I realize it's a little unique, me coming out here with a permanent suntan to sing country and western to you. But that's the way it is." A few people laughed after that, and then Charley began to sing. By the time he was done, nobody cared what color he was. His voice had won over their hearts. Charley's final message. On the 12th of December, 2020, the world received shocking news. Charley Pride had passed away from complications due to COVID-19. It felt as if the world had slowed when the news came. Charley had been like a monument in time, a landmark of sorts in the history of people of color in the world of country music. He had been living evidence of the strength and resilience of the black people. The whole nation mourned his death. But what left most people shocked and sad was his final message, which he had asked his wife to reveal after his death. Charley said that all his success and fame he had gotten did not feel real to him. He had spent so long chasing baseball, and by the time he went into music, he was exhausted. There were nights when he felt like the approval he got wasn't real, and they were all faking it to make him feel good about himself. Baseball had rejected him for many reasons, traded him to a struggling team, and left him with injuries. How is it possible for music to accept him so wholeheartedly, especially at a time when people were outcasts because of the color of their skin? It has seemed so surreal, and on many occasions, he wanted to quit. The praise and the validation made him wary. When he had gotten on Billboard's top 10 the first time, he had been sure it was a mistake. And after the applause at the Detroit Olympia Stadium, he felt undeserving. He hadn't worked as hard as others and hadn't gotten into the industry because of an undying passion for music. At first, it was about the money, but as time passed, he found himself performing because he wanted to, and it made him feel alive. It wasn't baseball, but it was a close second. There were times he felt he wasn't being honest with the music. His heart would forever belong to baseball, and he felt he owed it to apologize to fans, family, and friends, because there was something else that had his heart, and it wasn't the career that he had pursued for years. It was a love that he had found and lost. He had never really recovered from his bout with baseball till his last breath. He had watched games and felt the rush of being in the field. Then he thought that it could have been him. He wished for the game, but knew he couldn't return due to injuries and age. After the skyrocketing success of Just You and Me, his career took a drastic turn. In 1967, he became the first black performer to appear at the Grand Ole Opry since founding member DeFord Bailey, who had last appeared in 1941. He became the highest-selling artist for RCA Records, selling even more albums than Elvis Presley and John Denver. During the peak years of his recording career, he had 52 songs that reached Billboard's top 10 on the Hot Country Songs chart. Out of the 52 hits, 30 of them made it to the #1 spot. Songs such as All I Have to Offer You, Is Me, Is Anybody Going to San Antone, and Kiss an Angel Good Mornin' were among his most popular hits. In fact, Kiss an Angel Good Mornin' became known as the Charley Pride anthem. He won the Entertainer of the Year award at the Country Music Association Awards in 1971. He was awarded a Grammy for Best Country Vocal Performance Male in 1972. Pride later ventured into gospel music, releasing his first gospel album, Did You Think to Pray, in 1971. On the 1st of May, 1993, Pride became an official member of the Grand Ole Opry, becoming one of the rare people of color at the Grand Ole Opry. In 1994, Charley Pride published his book, Pride, the Charley Pride Story. The book follows his childhood in Mississippi, the impacts of racism throughout his career, and his battle with depression. Pride performed the national anthem before Game 6 of the 1980 World Series. He also performed the national anthem at the 8th Super Bowl and again at Game 5 of the 2010 World Series. In 2020, after his performance at the CMA Awards, the CMA announced that Pride would receive the Willie Nelson Lifetime Achievement Award at the 54th Country Music Association Awards in recognition of his work in the genre. That was the last performance we ever got from Charley Pride. Weeks after, he released a video informing fans of his COVID-19 diagnosis. Weeks later, the dreaded news came of his passing. He may be gone, but his message left a mark on the hearts of many. It was shocking to discover that this man had accomplished so much and changed the narrative for people with dark skin. His story has challenged many who have dreams and hopes, encouraging us to never give up. In his pursuit of baseball, he discovered music and had a profound impact on the lives of many in numerous ways. His voice, especially at the beginning of his career, showed that people of color could dream big and follow their dreams to reach the top. It may be hard, and a lot of obstacles may come your way, but as long as you keep moving, you might not be where you think you should be, but you could find your purpose in places you never expected it to be. What do you think about Charley's story? Please leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen.